Hey guys, I'm Anthony Anello, and I was asked to be your speaker at this year's FCA baseball tournament. Unfortunately, as you can see, we're not going to hold the baseball tournament in person, but I'm still going to say a couple words to you guys. A little bit about me is I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, playing baseball and basketball, and then I had the opportunity to go to Mississippi State University as a pitcher. My freshman year at State, we had a chance to go to the College World Series, and while we lost to UCLA in the national championship, there's still no denying that there was an unbelievable amount of talent on that team. But guys, I can say honestly that it was not the talent that made us as good as we were. Our success came from the drive, the passion, and the determination of those guys to be great, to put in the effort, and to practice every single situation like it was the game, like we were in the College World Series. That's what made us so great. And that's something I want to talk to you guys about, is being great. It's incredibly easy to be mediocre, and it's incredibly easy to be average. You just wake up and just put in the least amount of effort. You go through the motions. When you're in the cages, you're swinging with no real purpose, things like that. But that's never going to make you great, okay? I had a baseball coach once. It was my pitching coach at State, actually, and he would tell us that it would take 10,000 hours of preparation and of practice to make someone go from being average and being mediocre to allowing them the opportunity to be great. Now, the important distinction there is that 10,000 hours won't make you great. That 10,000 hours will give you the opportunity to be great, because greatness only comes from doing great things. All right, guys, this is one of the most important things you're going to hear. Great players do great things, all right? But that greatness is founded on the 10,000 hours of practice, on the 10,000 hours of preparation, on watching film, throwing bullpens, batting practice, things like that, so that when that great opportunity comes and taps you on the shoulder, that you are ready to seize the moment and you're ready to do something great. That's how you become a great player. Now, while that 10,000 hours of preparation and practice might seem like it's easy between game times and practice and things like that, it's actually incredibly difficult to achieve because of all the distractions in this life. You guys are all young men, so you're all going to experience distractions like girls and parties and video games and things like that. Those three things especially are going to pull you away from your goal, pull you away from your 10,000 hours, and keep you from fulfilling your full destiny with what the talents and the gifts that God gave you. This isn't just me saying it. It's not just a baseball coach that I had saying it. Guys, this is biblical, okay? There are three types of distractions that the Bible uses. He uses distractions that you bring on yourself, distractions that others put on you, and then the little voices that are distractions in your ear. Okay, the first example are distractions that you bring on yourself. That's exactly what I was just talking about. That is the girls and the parties and the video games. These are things that instead of taking extra reps, you decide to go to a party. Or instead of watching film in the morning, you sit around and play video games, things like that, before preparing for a game. Those are all going to hold you back in life, okay? Those are never going to allow you to reach your full potential. Well, the example that I like to use here is in the Bible, there's a story about Peter and the fishermen. They were on a boat, and Jesus was sleeping below deck. Well, a great storm came, and it was throwing the boat all around, and all the fishermen thought that they were going to capsize and they were going to sink. So Peter went down and woke Jesus up. Well, Jesus came up, and he calmed the storm. But if you remember what happened, he told Peter, step on out in the water. He needed to teach Peter some faith and allow Peter the opportunity to do something great. At this point, Peter was just a mediocre fisherman. He hadn't done anything to set himself apart. But God saw potential in him, and God gave him special gifts and knew that he needed to do something to seize those gifts. So he told him, take a step out of the boat and walk on the water. So what did Peter do? The first step was shaky. He didn't know about it. The second step, a little more short-footed. The third step, he was starting to get the hang of it. But at this point, he heard the great storm over his shoulder. That was his distraction. He looked and reverted his eyes from God and looked at the storm. And what happened? He started to sink. But the second that he pulled his eyes back on the Lord and got back on the straight and narrow and back on his path and back towards his 10,000 hours, he rose right back up to the top and he was able to keep walking. And the cool part about this story is that each step got easier and easier and easier, because every step he had a foundation of more and more great things in his past. By the 10th step, he had already taken 10 great steps. He had done 10 great things that got him there, so he knew he was capable of it. That's him overcoming distractions that he brought on himself. There are distractions now, too, that other people put on you. That's the classic example of, my coach won't play me, he doesn't like me, I never have the opportunity to do something great because he'll never put me in a game. Guys, you're never going to get anywhere with that excuse, okay? It might be true, but 10,000 hours doesn't happen during a game. Okay, 10,000 hours happens outside of games and outside of practices. Is you need to be watching film, you need to be taking batting practice, you need to be swinging with a donut, things like that on your own, not just in practice and not just in games. Make it so that you are so good that your coach has no option and no opportunity to win except unless you're in the lineup. That is how you overcome that. The example here I use is Joseph in the colorful jacket. If you remember the story, Joseph was his father's favorite, so his father gave him a beautiful coat of many colors. Well, his brothers didn't like him and were jealous of him, so they sold him into slavery. That was his example of his coach not liking him and his coach not playing him in a game. He was down in the pits. He was a slave, he was average, he was mediocre, he was never going to be great if he stayed there. So what did he do? He took a lot of great steps, a lot of small great steps, and rose the ranks eventually to becoming king. As king, he was the ruler over many nations, and he knew that at that point he had a platform to preach God's word and reach thousands and thousands and thousands of more people than he possibly could have ever imagined as a farmer or as a slave. But the only way he got there was by doing great things. If he had just woken up and gone through the motions, he would have been a slave forever. But instead, he decided that God's plan for his life was bigger than just being a slave, than just being average, and God gave him more talents and more abilities than he would ever use as a slave. So he needed some way to harness those abilities, and King allowed him that ability. At that level, he was able to spread the word of God through all the nations. The third example I use are those distractions that are in your ears. Those are the I'm too small, I'm too weak, I'm not fast enough, I don't have good equipment, my bat's not good, things like that. Guys, those are going to hold you back for the rest of your life, whether it's about baseball or about something else. If you listen to those voices, you're not listening to the voice of truth, which is God's voice, that says that you have talents, you have abilities, you are an exceptional person, so you can do exceptional things. That's the truth. If you listen to the lies about you're too small, so you'll never be good at baseball, look at Dustin Pedroia. Dustin Pedroia is smaller. Jose Altuve, they're small, but they're great baseball players because they have talents, they have abilities, and they know how to use those. They didn't let themselves being small be a detriment. Instead, they used it as a smaller strike zone so pitchers have to pitch to them. Or you get guys like Johnny Damon. Johnny Damon was an outfielder with a below average arm. He didn't have a very good throwing arm at all, but he didn't let that stop him. He just knew he had to be better at reading fly balls. He had to be faster, he had to be quicker, and he had to be a great hitter in order to overcome not having a strong arm. It's possible, but he didn't listen to what the scout said, that your arm's too weak, you'll never be a professional baseball player. He didn't listen to that. Instead, he listened to the truth that God spoke into him. He listened to, you're a great hitter, you're powerful, you're strong, you have good eyesight, you can read fly balls. That was his truth. He saw those abilities, and that's how he lived. He put his work in order to do something great with that as the foundation. He didn't listen to the distractions in his life. I want to close out by reading you a Winston Churchill quote. The quote says, "To each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing, unique to them and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for that which could have been their finest hour." Well, guys, that's basically just reiterating what I just said, okay? You have to put your 10,000 hours in, put your practice in, practice every moment like it's a game situation so that when that finest hour taps you on the shoulder and that opportunity to do something great presents itself, that you've gone through the preparation, you know what you would do in that situation because you visualized yourself succeeding and excelling in that situation time and time and time again, and you can take advantage of it and do something great. Because that great thing is the first step to you doing a second great thing, then a third great thing, then a fourth great thing. And eventually you will be a great ball player and a great person because you did great things. Guys, it's been an honor speaking with you today. If you want to reach out and talk about baseball, talk about this, talk about life, whatever it is, feel free. Take care and God bless.